Hey, Raymond here from the Beginner Photography Podcast. Welcome to this week's Fuji Photo Walk, where we have the brand new Fuji Instax Mini Evo hybrid camera. Let's see what we can create. You guys know that I love my Fuji cameras, from the X Pro and the XT series that I shoot at weddings, to the Instax Mini that I shoot just around the house, family and friends, and even the Instax SP1, which allows me to print photos directly from my X Pro camera to an instant photo. Typically what I do with my photo walks here is that I'll take out my Fuji camera, I will go out, I will shoot, I will come back, I will edit those photos, and then we talk about them. I'll walk you through what I was trying to achieve and how well it went. However, this week it's a little bit different. See, the Fuji Instax Mini Evo is a hybrid camera, so it's half digital, half instant prints. And what makes this camera really unique and versatile is that there are 10 different film filters and 10 different digital lens filters that you can apply to your photos to create 100 different creative combinations for your instant prints. And then because those are digital photos, you can then take them, put them on your computer, your iPad, edit them up, and do whatever you want after the fact. I have a whole review of the Fuji Instax Mini Evo right here, and actually why I'm returning it, unfortunately. And if you want to see that, I do love this camera. Then I'll go ahead and put a link in the description below for you to check out that review video. So for this photo walk, I just wanted to go out and see what I can capture in camera using the Fuji Instax Mini Evo's built-in digital filters and digital lenses to see what I could capture. One of the things that I really like about this Fuji Instax Mini Evo is the different digital lenses and the filters that you can use. And as you can see in this photo, I was using the double exposure option to capture something a little unique and difficult. One thing I really like about double exposures is that it allows you to add more context into a photo. I think context and moment are the two things that if you focus on, you'll really start to get fantastic photos. And I think that this double exposure turned out cool. I captured a few of them, and some of them seemed a little washed out. Maybe that was, on me. But this one, hands down, turned out the best out of all of the double exposures that I captured. What I wanted to achieve with this Fuji Photo Walk was to be able to push myself and to be able to still create something that I was happy with, which is exactly what this is. This digital lens is called mirror. So obviously the left side is exactly the same as the right side. And what interests me about this is that it really helps you to create something new and interesting and geometric. And maybe not something that you would get out of a traditional, just an instant print, but it's something where you have to kind of use your brain and visualize what it is that you want to create. And that's art. If I've said this once, I've said it 100 times. Photography is simply just a form of storytelling. And every story needs a beginning, middle, and an end. We need to know where we are, we need to know what we're doing, and we need to know how it finishes. So this photo right here is simply, where am I? I'm about to walk onto a very cold trail. One thing that could be difficult that I've learned about photographing trees in the wintertime, when essentially they're just giant sticks without leaves, is that they don't look as good on camera as they do to our eyes because of our natural depth perception, because we have two eyes. So you kind of have to do something that is going to make whatever your subject is stand out. Now, whether that be, just being in a pool of light, or in this case, it is in stark contrast with the color to the background and the snow as well. And once again, context, context, context. If this was just a photo of the trail sign, it really wouldn't mean anything. But now that you see the footsteps in the snow, it tells a better story. This photo is very similar to this last photo here. However, the difference is obviously the filter that I used. For this photo, I found that the combination of a monochrome film filter and a soft focus lens filter gave this a really eerie feel. I was kind of crazy when I decided to go out because I think it was like 14 degrees. It was very cold and there was nobody else on these trails. In fact, all of the footprints that I had found had turned to ice. So I was all alone out there in the woods, in nature. And for some, that can be an eerie feeling. It can feel very creepy. So I thought that this film and this lens combination fit really well for a photo like this. One of my favorite things about this Fuji Photo Walk was knowing that I was going to be printing up my 10 favorite photos. And when you go into it knowing how it's going to end up, that just kind of influences the way that you shoot a little bit. And that's what I love, because that, for me, is where that creativity blooms. That's where that comes from. That's where it gets really exciting. And that's why one of my creative photo ideas in my free ebook, 46 Creative Photo Ideas, that you can download right now absolutely free, is to shoot film. Because it forces you to think just a little bit different on how you're going to capture the images. And if you head over to creativeimageIdeas.com right now, you can download my free creative ebook right now, all for yourself. There's an interesting lens here on the Fuji Instax Mini Evo, and that is called half frame. Now, this obviously allows you to put 2 photos onto a single frame. Now, the creative possibilities, there's quite a few that you can do with this, but for me and where I was, thinking of the story that I was telling, once again, I needed the establishing of where are we and what are we doing. We are on a trail in nature, and we are walking on trail 3. So this photo isn't, or I guess the series of photos, it's not one of my favorites here, but I thought that it's a good illustration of how to combine 2 photos to be a more powerful pairing. I think this photo right here is probably my most favorite. For this, there's no lens filter. I just used the monochrome film simulation. Originally, the photo was much wider. I was further back. But sometimes you have to think about where these photos are going to end up, and I knew that they were going to end up on teeny tiny credit card sized photos. And that meant that whatever my subject was had to be bigger in the frame. It had to be more powerful. It had to stand out more. So I just simply took a few steps closer, nothing revolutionary, but there's something about the weight of this image and the composition, whereas everything up top is just strong lines and trees, and obviously everything down below is just snow, and then right in the center there we have our beautiful bench. And to me, this is like the definition of solitude, right? You're alone in the woods, the trees are bare of all of their leaves, snow is all over the ground, there's nobody there. This is peace and quiet. This is solitude. As I said, the goal for this Fuji Photo Walk for me was to push myself creatively by using filters and digital lenses that I wouldn't normally find myself drawn to, and somehow make those photos work. So with one of the digital lenses creating a fisheye effect, I had to find something to shoot. I don't own a fisheye, I don't shoot with a fisheye, but when I think of fisheye, I think back to skateboarding videos, I think back to kind of that raw and that gritty feel. And to me, every time that I would think of that footage in my head, I would always remember, like, for some reason, I don't know if this is real or if my brain manufactured this, but it's like somebody, say a skateboarder, walking up to a camera and just getting like real close into it and just filling the frame, and you feel like, whoa, that's so crazy, you know, before they walk away. So to me, this fisheye photo had to embody being really close to something, as in saying, like, don't look at anything else in this frame. This is the only thing that you're looking at, and still kind of incorporate that raw grittiness that I think of when I think of fisheye photos. And to me, this is it, right? Like, we are out in nature, and it is beautiful, and it is serene, and it's quiet. And then all of a sudden, here's this sign that says, no, 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 you're not allowed to go here. And somebody, or, you know, something, damaged the sign. And to me, that says grittiness. That says I'm breaking the rules. And to me, that perfectly embodies a fisheye lens. One thing that I'm always looking for is a good composition and some sort of interesting lines. So while I was walking up this hill and I saw all of these roots kind of sticking out of the ground and subsequently trying to like reach out of the snow, creating, I don't know, it looked like steps. I thought that was really interesting and I really wanted to take a photo. But again, I like clean, simple, leading lines. You're following a path. It's a very easy to understand photo. Out of this whole sea of white and black, essentially, white of the snow, black of, you know, the tree trunks, it's a very high contrast scene. There was one tree that stood out that somehow still had its leaves on it, and they were this beautiful gold orange color. So immediately it stood out and it had contrast. So I knew I had to get real close for this photo. And luckily the Fuji Instax Mini Evo has a macro mode to let you get even closer to those photos. So one thing that I always try to teach is to fill the frame. If whatever your subject is, if you think that you're close enough, just get one step closer. So I took my own advice, and instead of taking a photo of the entire tree, I stepped in closer to take a close-up of just one of these beautiful leaves. These resilient leaves. Screw the cold. Now for this last photo here, I really wanted it to be extremely contrasty. So I put it into monochrome, and the Fuji Instax Mini Evo here allows you to adjust things like exposure compensation as well. So I believe I just put it one stop underexposed, and this was the photo that I got, where I could get the footprints of people walking through the snow on this beautiful path and still have all of the shadows from the trees just absolutely crushed in this very high contrast environment. And what it does is it just simply makes the path stand out even more, because I really don't care about the trees. We know that those are trees just by peripherals. We just understand that that's what they are. But it's that path that I wanted your eye to follow. I'll be honest, I was actually a little bit worried with this Fuji Photo Walk, having to push myself using filters and digital lenses that I normally would never use. But I wanted to, push myself creatively. And I think that I walked away with some photos that I'm really happy with. Now, whether or not that's because I was able to take the photo first in camera and then decide which ones I wanted to print after the fact, I don't know. I guess I will have to answer that question on the next Fuji Photo Walk, where I use the Fuji Instax Mini 40. If you like this video and felt like it helped you creatively, then feel free to just click that button right there to see more of my Fuji Photo Walks and see how you can be more creative with your photography.